discussion whenever there's like a big black thing going on in the news. Like when we had the situation in Ferguson, you know, I saw people on Fox, talking heads on Fox, talking about, you know, one of the biggest problems in the black community is the disintegration of the black family. I'll say this: the woman is so important for the, you know, the reasons that the minister just spoke to. You know, having that foundation beside you to help you move forward and become your fullest self. You need a strong woman. There's no debating that. But one of the things I always laugh at when I hear people, not necessarily laugh, but I question when people say, you know, the problem in the black community is the disintegration of the family. Where for me, I always take it back and I say the black family for me is like a startup company. Because you got to understand, for many years, we were psychologically stripped of that whole family concept. We had to develop certain defense mechanisms, because when you saw your spouse or the mother of your children getting raped, and when you saw your children getting sold off, there was a certain thing for, again, 500 years where the whole concept of family was just foreign to us. And then all of a sudden, listen, you gotta understand, when I speak, I'm speaking of, you gotta cut Africa out. Because I'm saying, when we were brought here, all that was stripped. When you strip something for so many years, yes, there was families, but yet you had to protect yourself. It was something psychological that happened over the course of all those years that said, I can't connect too much with you because you might get sold down the river. Or that man's gonna rape you and then you're gonna have kids. I can't connect. And then all of a sudden, once again, we're set free. And then when we're set, last point, then when we're set free, okay, there are these concepts and these structures of what is success in this country that people who have been living these themes freely for 500 years, they want to hold us accountable to those same norms. And that's not normal. We never had a chance to get the psychological care that was necessary to heal from the conditions that we were in. So we've been figuring it out on the fly. And and it goes back to my point, with us figuring it out on the fly for the last 150 years since the Civil War, I feel like we're getting it right. Do we have problems? Yes. But I choose to look at the black experience as going this way, not this way, because of what we came from.
Basically want to say that at the end of the day, I believe in my heart of hearts that the black man's biggest nemesis is himself. You know, many years ago, we were not treated as an equal, you know, human being to white people, period. Today, we are treated equal. And I think that, hold on 1 second, allow me to finish my point. I think that some people sort of get it twisted what it means to be, you know, equal. Being equal or being treated equal doesn't mean that we have to have the same wealth and the same opportunities and the same, you know, circumstances. At the end of the day, we all have the rights that we were refused many years ago. And the problem that I see is African-American people, and I'm not talking about the entire culture, I'm talking about those who walk in laziness, in ignorance, and are complacent, and are angry, and are envious, and are hateful. You know, all of these things up here, all these chains that we wear, you know, some of us wear every single day. These are the things that have us to become our own arch enemy. These are the things that continue to keep us bound, okay? We don't have to exercise any of these things. We don't have to be angry. We don't have to sit still and do nothing. God gifted us with so many amazing talents and abilities to overcome our circumstances. The difference is who wants it bad enough. At the end of the day, Robert wanted it bad enough. When we met several years ago, and I'll be honest with you, and I've told Robert many a times, I was depressed. Like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be a feat. And the great thing about Robert and the problem that I see with black people is sometimes we're just not coachable. Sometimes no one can tell us anything. We can't learn anything from other people, especially our own. This man has been the most cooperative, collaborative, coachable, I mean, just amazing, refreshing, conscientious black man I've met in a really long time. And not once throughout this entire process did he complain. Not once did he ever mention who was holding him back. Not once did he use the white man as an excuse to say that I cannot become a published author. Not once did he hold anybody accountable for his future. 3.5 years later, here we are today. We have a published author. We have a man of purpose, a man of God who is courageous enough to take a stand against self-oppression, okay? Black people are self-oppressed when it comes to us as a culture. And I think it's evident in the things that we don't have that all the other cultures have. When you look at the Asians, what do they have? They have restaurants. They have nail shops. When you look at the Indians, come on. What do we have as a culture that we can call our own? What is it?
Hey, it got heated, man. I can't get to everybody's question, but man, I got my man next. I think he'll be good on this one. I want y'all to input on this too.
Yes, question.
Keeping it going. Everybody, I'm sure here is aware of everything that's been going on with Bill Cosby. Right. Oh man, we got some rules on that one. But we also know how much our community idolizes Jay-Z and Beyonce. Yeah. Why do you believe the black community always look to more successful, and I'm doing the air quotes, or well-known African Americans to lead, fight, take action, or speak out on internal issues and injustices? And I use those two examples because I could have used Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, but I feel like right now those are not the people that this generation is really looking forward to. You know what I'm saying? We're looking at Jay-Z and Beyonce, or I saw an interview with Young Thug. They asked Young Thug about Ferguson, and he was like, man, I don't pay no attention to that, and people got upset about it. But why do we expect a rapper or a singer or a comedian like even Bill Cosby to speak for us when we're all intelligent and we can speak for ourselves?
I was gonna say, I don't look to them as being leaders. And I think it's just because they're accessible. Yeah, that's the only thing. It's easy to put a microphone in their face because I don't feel like we need quote unquote black leaders. I feel like there's leaders amongst all of us. There's so many leaders, and I hate the whole concept. We need a black leader. Like one person has to lead all of us. There's leaders in every. There's a ton of us. Let's just put it like that. There's a ton of people that are leaders. So I'll just say for me personally, I don't look at any of these leaders.
I think it's more than a platform.
Accessible.
I think it's more than a platform. You know, people nowadays, you know, if I become a doctor, everybody gonna be quiet in the room and hear what I gotta say intelligently. You know, as rappers and they got all this money, a lot of black youth look to them. And that's why they have a platform, but as well they have a great influence on young folks as well. And I don't think a lot of these folks realize how great an influence they have on them.
A lot has been said, and I don't know where to begin, but I have to say this. One, racism is always a no-no. And if we treat anybody different because of who they are and where they come from, everyone should frown on that. Now, as far as, you know, the numbers, you got poor and rich, you know, fat and skinny, however you want to look at it. I teach people this all over the world. We all come in different shapes, size, and color, and, you know, from the rich to the poor. But no matter what category you fall in, you gotta have the right attitude. You gotta have the right attitude, because whether you're this man right here that came up with the money, where was the person to reach him to give him the right attitude? And then whether you are, no matter what category you fall in, somebody has to reach you to say, hey, if you can find the right attitude, then you can work as a team with anybody, no matter their color, shape, or size, and then that has to be the movement. But if you do not treat people the way that you would want to be treated, no matter what category you fall in, then there's never an answer.
Let's say something about this guy real quick and let people know, maybe they'll understand, like, this is one guy, this is like one of my best friends right here, Sterling Jones, and only reason I say what he's saying is so powerful because he's not somebody who just said, he came from the same upbringing that I had with parents. We didn't understand it at the time, but this man took something where somebody called him in and said, hey, you're flipping. You know how to flip. Something as simple as doing backwards flips. They was putting this man on the road, bringing him to shows, paying him a little money, putting him in a hotel room. This brother said, no, I'm gonna open up my own business and I'm gonna flip. Yeah. And he flips all around the world. He's doing the All-Star game. And I just seen this brother the other day. This brother put 10 young brothers, 17-year-old black men to work for him. Yeah. And they're getting paid, and he's treating these brothers and showing them ways to win. Now, this is the dream right here. This is what I'm talking about. He's not just somebody sitting around saying, oh, I'm going to do this. He's getting out out and making a difference. That is the dream. That is what Martin Luther King spoke about doing. Just us being those people that take responsibility for our actions and bringing up the people around us to be better. Everybody's not going to get it. It's some people right now looking at their phone saying, what's the after party popping like? This is some bullshit. I don't want to get it. And there's some people right now that's going to take this and make a difference and teach people. Like I was reading people, this quote I just found today, it said, I would unite with anybody to do right and with nobody to do wrong.
Check this out.
Kind of tying into where we left off at, I was thinking I had to talk to the man over here who gave us the numbers the first round, and kind of thinking about, on that note, where we left off at, I wanted to pose a question about politics. We have President Barack Obama in office right now, and he's coming towards the end of his second term, and you know, there's talk that maybe we'll have a Latino president next, or maybe we might have the first female president. Politics in the black community. A lot of us don't vote because we feel like our vote doesn't matter, but I personally feel like the biggest trick ever played was convincing the people that whose vote mattered the most that it didn't matter. What do you guys feel like, what role do you feel like politics play? Do you feel like it does matter, or does it not matter, one of the positions I had about Ferguson was if more people would have voted, maybe that thing in Ferguson might have happened a little bit differently, because the local police chief is a locally elected position. What role do you feel like politics play as far as how it interacts with the black man and how it affects us as a people? Go ahead.
The biggest mistake that we make when it comes to politics, and Malcolm X even talked about this before he passed, that we as blacks or African Americans, we never, to a certain extent, understood the science of politics. And so, and this was something he said after the bullet on the ballot. You know, at that time, he was willing to not vote. But that later changed for him before he passed. And the biggest mistake is we kind of get caught up in national elections. The only time that we typically do come out, generally speaking, that's just looking at the numbers. I'm not blaming or accusing anything. The real numbers show that we typically don't come out for the midterm elections as much, but we do go out for the national elections. And so I've heard people make incredible points for how voting doesn't matter in the past, or I dialogue with them. And the biggest mistake in even passing that information along, especially to our children, is locally, I can give you hundreds of examples of where voting locally matters. And if you understand that voting locally is what matters much more than the national election, which we as a people come out to, then we're missing the boat on where it does matter. I mean, a quick example, and I'll move on, but I remember there was a small referendum a few years back. I've been here since '03, but like a 1 cent tax for keeping Head Start in place in one of the northern counties here in Georgia, or whatever. It barely passed. Like, luckily it did. But imagine, I've always thought about this. Imagine being the single mother of 2 kids who didn't go out and vote, and it didn't pass. And now you're paying for another year of daycare versus going to free Head Start. So voting absolutely matters locally, but as a people, we've gotten caught up and go only out to the national elections. And the smartest thing that we could ever do, voting it should be about a 15% focus. But that's enough to matter. When I say versus, we've never understood the economics of it. So really, our vote will always kind of be toothless without the money. And so until we make an economic turn, it won't have a big effect. But this is how it can have an effect. If we actually were willing to become independents, then we could actually sway elections, and both parties would have to pay attention to us.
I would have to come along beside Montoya. I agree with what he said, economics, and I think we have not understood that yet as people of color. You know, in America, Dr. King was not assassinated behind civil rights. He was assassinated because he started that economic push. You know, and as a minister, through my studies, I found out that the Bible makes more references to money than it does prayer, faith, and salvation. So what was God trying to tell us? And I'll finish it right here. You know, I was talking with a Caucasian friend of mine on last year, because I do real estate investing also, so I understand a lot of things from an economic perspective. And he said something to me, and it was from a teaching moment. And he said, Frederick, your people don't understand. It's like, okay, all right. I said, what is it that we don't understand? He says, as it pertains to politics, you got politics, you got policy, and you got politicians. He says, your people believe that you all own the politician that you vote for. He said, you never own the politician that you vote for. You own the politician that you pay for. That's what we have not understood. Why is it that, a lot of blacks' hopes were so pinned on President Obama when he first, this was a historical moment. Somebody looks like us, in the White House. And then when President Obama got in the White House, he would not hear the voice of people of color. And a lot of blacks were upset. They were angry. How could he turn his back on us? How could he not give us an audience like he was giving to everyone else? The Hispanic community, women, the gay and lesbian community, but he would not give an audience to African Americans. Well, it goes back to economics. Look at the monies that they were putting behind him. We showed up to vote, but we didn't leave the money.
And that is his message. You don't vote. Politicians don't do for you because you voted for them. They do for you because you pay them. And in order to pay them, they don't want $10. You got to have some economics. So that means land, resources, money, clothing. You have to own significant amounts. That's right.
Why is it that we have such a hard time seeking out help for mental illness in our community, Mr. Washington?
What I would say, I believe the reason why we look at it as taboo or something that we shouldn't do is because for the majority, well, for one, I don't think a lot of black people believe that they can afford it. For two, I believe that they have made it something that is a white thing to do. So when you look at movies, you look at TV, you see white people going to the shrink, but you don't see a lot of black people sit down in front of a shrink. The other thing is, it goes back to education. A lot of blacks don't understand the intricacies of healthcare. Going to a psychiatrist is one of the things that most healthcare plans pay for. And most black people don't even know that. They don't even know that they can actually go and seek help for issues that they're currently dealing with. They can actually go and sit down with somebody and have a conversation, a dialogue, so to speak, about what's going on with your life or internally. The number one leader of death among African Americans is stress. If you can just go and sit down with a psychologist or a psychiatrist and just get that conversation out, you might be able to deal with a lot of things that are going on in your life, a lot of conflicts, a lot of internal things that you're battling.
I want to speak to that because it really speaks to my whole platform and when I talk on these subjects that in terms of going to a psychologist and things like that, a lot of people get upset when you go back, but everything gets passed down. We didn't have access to those type of resources for so long in terms of the proper health care and the understanding of the benefits of mental health care and things like that. And the mindset that, oh, I don't need to do that, that got passed down.
Right.
That gets passed down. And or even the idea when you say most black people, or I hate saying most anything, a lot of black people just don't even know. You know why? Because no one taught them. So that's why when I had these discussions, I like to respectfully disagree with the sentiment that black people are self-oppressed, because it all stems from somewhere, and you have to be able to acknowledge the past and what it did without saying that it's holding you back from going forward. Because a lot of people, if you hear me speak, like I laugh when people say, man, you blame the white man. What? If you knew me, anyone that knows me, I hate to speak about myself like that, but I'm very ambitious. Let me say that. Nobody holds me down. I don't give anybody that much weight in my life to even think that they can hold me down. But at the same time, I can talk to you about the history of the African American and how that plays a role in everything they do. So I'll hear people saying, man, you can't say those things, you playing the victim or, the race card or the white man holding you back. But we will acknowledge the importance of the role of our parents and how they raise you and the things they instill in you and how that plays a part in what we are today. Well, you can't do it in one instance and then deny the fact that for so long, so much of the wrong things were instilled.
Absolutely.
Or because of our social place, so many things weren't even allowed to be instilled.
Right, mental health is just like diabetes. and cholesterol and high blood pressure. It's another manifestation of the anxiety and stress that we feel. And so when you don't acknowledge that, all of the other things that we talk about become even that much more difficult. And we've been conditioned to be these strong people who don't necessarily want to reach out and ask for help. Professionally, when we need a mentor or to be engaged with someone that can get us to the next level, we don't know how to engage, right? That's stressful. Educationally, when we don't know how to get to the next level, we don't know how to engage, and that's stressful. I deal with a population of young people that live in poverty. And so when you start talking about young brothers, you know, walking around with their pants hanging down, I'm not scared of that young man until he gives me a reason to be scared of him, right? We're walking around with a lot going on. PTSD, you know, you look at things that you see on TV about men getting shot in the streets, boys getting shot in the streets. If you have a son and you're scared about that, what do you think your son feels about walking around in the streets? And so that needs to be addressed. When I see young people, they're talking about safety issues and boundaries and being nervous about being Black people, right? That's a unique situation. And so, you know, I really, really just want to impress upon people that being strong, there's nothing wrong with being strong, but there's also nothing wrong with taking care of a wellness issue like mental health.
Insecurities. Our insecurities as a Black man, how do they affect us in, as far as those chains that are on the banner up there, and what steps can we take to overcome those insecurities that we all probably have as Black men?
Like for myself, like I have these conversations on the daily with my cousins and everything. We talk about how we want to be better, and one thing I see in our culture is we just want the fast, like, oh, okay, if it didn't happen, I don't know how to keep working and go through things. And I believe what everybody said, it was something that we learned. Like I said, me and my dad was always in the house. We didn't have many conversations about important things, and like I tell people, I talked to my mother, and she told me, I was like, Mom, like, I feel like y'all did the best y'all could, but y'all said go to school, but y'all didn't really teach us why. Y'all told us about credit, but you didn't really teach us how. And my mama looked at me, she was like, son, I didn't know about these things, so I messed up my credit. So I tried to teach you at 40, but then still me being the type of person I am, I could have took the information and said, hey, I'm gonna go this way and do this and learn about things. But I took the information and said, hey, well, I guess I'm gonna learn about mine when I mess it up too. But that was the ignorance on my part. So what I feel like what we do in our culture, we need to teach, like every generation is that generation that's breaking the chain every small point at a time. Like with my kids now, my daughter is 6. I sit down with her every day and teach her about money. The stuff that she has in her room, I tell her the money that she gets from her grandmother and everything. I teach her about money as far as you're paying for your stuff. Here, we have your shoes that you want. This costs money. Now you have to pay for this, like these. Like my mama said something with my sister. She was like, hey, your kids in the house, give them a bill to pay. Ask them what bill they want. My nephews and nieces, they're 12, 11, and 6. They all said they wanted this different bill. I like lights, so they want this. My mom said, you get this money, you get these allowances, you chip in this $5. But we looking at it something like, damn, your kids paying bills. But it's teaching them how when they get out into the world, they don't have to just go out there and mess up their own thing.
I was just Robert here just a few minutes ago speaking about teaching his daughter about money and things of that nature, and just showing her in the household. And it brings a great point for me because back to the question, the Nemesis question, I believe it is truly the psyche. See, he's developing her psyche and the way that she thinks and what she does. It's developed at a very young age. I said foundation. So it's the psyche. To me, this is my personal opinion, that we have to change the way we think.
That's right.
Our whole psyche is what this thing is about. And to my point, let me tell you this. To my point, now, just about maybe 10 months ago, if I walked through that door, then you probably wouldn't have let me in because, see, I'm a recovering cocaine addict. I stay right now in a drug rehabilitation center. I was the guy who at the red light, I stop and try to wash the windows. I don't shower for days, for weeks. They call me everything from a basehead to a junkie to a J. I was all those things. And you know what? Because my psyche believed that I was.
Come on.
So it had to be something in my life to impact me so I can change my psyche in the way that I thought. And as a people, I think that's what we have to do. Now, we have to become more than just mentors. Mentors is sharing your experience and you know, just sharing your experience with others.
That's right.
But we have to become coaches.
Yes.
The difference is, a coach, you extract and pull potential out of people.
Okay.
And that's what we need to do as a people. So, and last but not least, I'd like to say that in order to develop and progress and move forward, we have to believe in something greater than ourselves. Of course, that's God for me, but your spiritual foundation must be the root system of your life.
Right.
Everything has to revolve around that. Then we move forward.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. All right. What is success to you?
Just being able to have my kids and my kids' kids being able to look and say, I was left something. I was left something I could stand on. My daddy's name could bring me money. As opposed to him just sitting around and being like, how we're gonna bury him, what we're gonna do. Like, now we still have to struggle. I want everybody to come after me to have this beautiful thing that we're supposed to have, though. Just be the kings that we were called to be and the queens that we were called to be. So.
Guys, be sure to look forward to the next Black Man Dialogue next month. Crystal informed me that this is going to be an ongoing conversation. I mean, of course, we couldn't accomplish everything in one night. Even if we'd had 12 hours to discuss all this stuff, we couldn't have covered everything tonight. So it's going to be an ongoing conversation. I mean, hopefully we'll have a Black Woman Dialogue. We need that too. Be sure to check out robertdharbin.com. And also check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Is it at Robert D. Harbin? Okay, at Robert D. Harbin. I'm sorry? Robert Darrell Harbin. At Robert Darrell Harbin. And it's a wrap.